Welcome to the Texas Bankers Hall of Fame. Tonight, we celebrate exceptional contributions to banking in Texas. Tonight we honor Kenneth Burgess, Ron Butler, James Gouge, Pat Parsons, and David Sine. Now, please recognize Smith Hudson Endowed Chair of Banking and 2018 Texas Bankers Hall of Fame recipient Jill Sharp Vaughn. Welcome to the Texas Bankers Hall of Fame.
I'm back. So good evening again, and I know you are not been served yet. We have a working agenda. Bankers are used to
Tonight,
having a working agenda. And so
contributions
please
to
continue
banking
your
in
meal,
Texas.
and we're going to get started because we have so much to celebrate tonight. What a great night to celebrate bankers, appropriately recognize them for their vast contributions to our industry and the communities. Service at our own university is deeply rooted in our culture, as our own motto is, "The measure of a life is its service." Sound familiar? Tonight, I would say all of our inductees and our previous inductees would get a perfect 4.0 GPA on a life of service. As you will witness, these inductees have been visionaries and trailblazers that have met the call to be deserving of this recognition. Esteemed honorees, we welcome each of you and your family and friends to our university. Can I have a round of applause? I would like to welcome our other special guests. We've already recognized our previous year's Texas Banker Hall of Fame inductees. Would the following guests please stand, and if you'll hold your round of applause to the end. Our great leader, our president for Sam Houston State University, Dr. Elisa White, and her husband, Elliot Herzlich. Dr. Michael Stevenson, Provost and Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs. Matthew Bethay, Vice President for University Advancement. Retired Major General David Glazer, our Chief Strategy Officer. Jeff Harris, our Chief Marketing Officer. Charlie Vienne, our Associate Vice President for Alumni Relations. Dr. Jim Gattner, President Emeritus for Sam Houston State University. Commissioner Charles Cooper, Texas Banking Commissioner. Darren Peschel, our Senior Vice President in charge of the Houston branch of the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas. Darren, and a graduate of our MBA program. Emily Greenwald, Senior Vice President of Banking Supervision and Regulation for the Federal Reserve Bank of Dallas. Emily's new to our advisory board. We're so glad she's with us tonight. Chris Furlow, President and Executive Officer for Texas Bankers Association and his team. Our current chairman for Texas Bankers Association, Ford Sasser. Our friends at Independent Bankers of Texas, they're here represented tonight. There they are. Dwight Gary, Executive Director of Commercial Banking Program for Texas A&M University. All right, we had a baseball game the other night. I wouldn't be saying whoop right now. I think it was 9-2. Mike Malden, Director for Excellence in Banking Program for Texas Tech University. I know that guns up thing y'all do, or guns down, or what, okay. I'm getting used, I'm learning all this. Jeff Schmidt, President, CEO of Southwest Graduate School of Banking for SMU. Dr. Jaime Taylor, President for Lamar University and team. Our good friends at RMA, Ed DeMarco and Amanda Good. We have a full attendance of our Smith-Hudson Endowed Chair of Banking Advisory Board members. Will you please stand? Our current and former executive MBA students. And we're very proud to have our banking students with us tonight. A very special recognition to our current Dean of the College of Business Administration, Dr. Shar Self, who just joined us and hit the ground running in June. Shar? Our previous Dean, Dr. Mitchell Musam, and Dr. Dean Lewis, who was the dean actually when our program was founded. Will they please stand and be recognized, because without their support, our program would not have the vision it has today. We have many sponsors that are with us tonight. They're listed in your program. And thank you so much to those of you that support us financially throughout the year, and also with our programs and our scholarships, but even more importantly, those of you that support our students with JOBS's, jobs. That's what we're here for, right? And internships. Again, a big Sam Houston welcome to each of you. I would also like to thank our incredible administration, faculty, and staff at our university that supports our programs and our students, focusing not only on student success, but social mobility as we work to prepare students for tomorrow. Your support helps us fill this banking industry talent pipeline that by recruiting, teaching, nurturing, and preparing students that are eager to start their careers in our great profession. It goes without saying that banking is not for the faint of heart, right? Thought y'all would like that comment. But it takes commitment and fortitude, because it is so critically important profession that we all must work together. All of us, all the banking programs and educators and banks and bankers to help develop and grow our own. The Smith-Hudson vision had that vision to grow our own. Really, the vision that they built into establishing this program, believe it or not, in 1996. They're really to be commended for all that has been done for our industry, as we've seen firsthand the quality of other programs now that have developed around the state, such as those represented here tonight. I've recognized many of those already. This certainly validates the need for this important mission as we all work together in education and in our profession. We also are proud of our EMBA program as we work with other industry graduate programs like SWGSP. Again, that's just another leg in that stool of education that fulfills a different but important need for bankers to further their professional development throughout their careers. It's a real pleasure to work with my fellow directors of all of these programs. You will not find a more dedicated team that works day in and day out for the success of our students. And Dr. Bexley created an incredible legacy, and it's really humbling to fill his shoes. We were very close. I never saw myself in this role, but he was an incredible mentor to me, and I'm especially thankful that he had the foresight in what he did with our program, but most importantly, that he put a great team in place. Pam Thaler, Jacqueline Cawthon, Steve Nenninger, please stand and let us recognize you for your many years of hard work and dedication. But in thinking about our 10th year, we would be remiss without special recognition to Pam Thaler, because Dr. Bexley had great ideas and had great vision, but you always have to have someone that can take that vision and get it across the finish line. And this entire event is because of Pam's leadership and commitment to excellence. If it was up to me, y'all wouldn't even be sitting in these seats. You would be sitting all over the room. But she has an incredible desire that everything that we do in our program is done to the finest detail with excellence for our students and for our industry. Pam actually started working in the department 23 years ago, side by side. And this is going to sound like a lot to all of us as bankers, but it's also going to sound a lot in the education business, because this is not easy to always accomplish. But since 1996, Dr. Bexley started a minor, then a major, then an internship program, then a job placement service, basically, an EMBA program, an executive MBA program, a golf tournament and seminar, which we have tomorrow, and then let's just throw in a gala on top of that for 350 people. This program, I'm so proud to say, has produced over 1,300 interns, 500 bankers. Listen at this number, $731,000 in scholarships. Let's get a round of applause. And after tonight, recognize 47 bankers in this Hall of Fame effort, which is a big night in Texas banking. So, So thank you, Pam, for carrying the history, the vision, and the excellence of our program forward with this continuity. And I would also be remiss if I didn't mention Rick Thaler, who's over our graduate studies for our College of Business Administration, who's our logistics manager. So thank you to both of those individuals. In that light of all the accomplishments, the scholarships, and all of that, we decided in our advisory board meeting, actually it came up in the fall, and we brought it to fruition in the spring, but we're pretty excited to announce our new fund here that's called the Texas Bankers Legacy Fund. You will find it inside your program. It's a grassroots effort, and once the advisory board gave us the green light, it was actually Dave Stevenson's idea. We took it and were able to kick it off this month. We actually kicked it off with a recognition to Walter Johnson's 87th birthday. If you know Walter Johnson, he was in our 2013 inaugural Texas Bankers Hall of Fame group, a legend in Texas banking. And Walter was so surprised. Amagi and Dave and Steve Stevens made the first contribution. And Walter was so surprised because he's usually writing the checks. He's usually the donor. And he kept saying, am I a donor? And I was like, no, we're actually honoring you. It's your birthday. For 87 years, he's still going strong. A true Texas banking legend. and a true Texas banker just like all of you. It's important to note that the purpose is to be available to participation from anyone with a passion for banking and bankers, regardless of your bank, at university, or level of giving. We feel it's a great way to recognize any banker by honoring them or just by making a general contribution. You'll find more information, but we're really excited about that. I have a lapel pin that we designed, and we're really excited about that. So at this time, I'd like to introduce our president, Dr. Elisa White, and ask her to share a few remarks about Sam Houston State University.
What a great evening. Welcome to our beautiful Sam Houston State University. I'm a native Texan, so I like legends, and there are so many in the same room. I'm thinking there can't be any kind of disaster because we could all go out at once. I think everybody who's anybody in banking is in this room today. And so I'm excited to celebrate tonight's inductees into the 10th Annual Texas Bankers Hall of Fame. Thank you to the College of Business Administration, the Smith Hudson Endowed Chair of Banking. Took us a while to persuade her, but we got her, and I'm so glad. And then also our sponsors for hosting the event. So when I moved here 3 years ago, I had no idea what this was. And Dean Musam tried to explain it. I didn't get it until I attended my first one. And of course, the highlights of the evening will be the stories that we will learn in just a few minutes about the background of those inductees. And that's why we're here. But we've got people here, outstanding bankers, who've made contributions to the profession and pioneered the industry. Again, that Texas legend. So tonight we're going to celebrate 5 who've made unique contributions, significant contributions. And those significant contributions, we talk about industry, but they impact people, families, communities, and our state. And we're so much better for it. So my husband stood up a moment ago, but he's a business owner. And when we make decisions in our own lives about business, we talk to each other. We are data-centered, and so we look at the data, we analyze, we pray, and then we call our banker. So I know you get those calls because you're the partner in the community. You're the one who can figure out, is this a good thing? Can we make this happen? Can you assume this risk? I know it's not all on you, but believe me, your advice, your counsel is something that creates communities. I do want to say just a couple of words about Sam Houston, and some of you may remember this from last year because we're still doing well. For the second year in a row, U.S. News and World Report ranked us #1, top performer in Texas for social mobility. #1, right? Now, I had to give you that figure, even though there's somebody here who's heard it before. So you met Dr. Jaime Taylor from Lamar. He and I were buddies in Tennessee. We worked together in Tennessee, and we both work for the same Texas State University system, and our boss is in the room. So I know he has bosses in the room, but Stephen Lee is our regent. I know where you are. Please stand, yes, regional president for First Financial. But I have to brag on our institution when my boss is in the room. And so think about it. What does it mean for social mobility? You're in communities and you have community members who are struggling with all the things that communities struggle with. And we're talking about food insecurity, we're talking about inflation, we're talking about housing crises. We have students who come here. Do you know 75% of our students work? It's actually between 70 to 80% any given semester. You don't always see our students out because they're working. Half of our students are the first in their families to go to college. And so when I talk about social mobility, I'm saying they come here, but they leave differently. They come here thinking they might have opportunity, but I heard it said best at convocation. One of our chemistry faculty said, Sam Houston is where you go to grow into your dreams. Grow into your dreams. That's what we do here. And frankly, that's what you do in your profession. You help people grow into their dreams. So our esteemed banking chair mentioned our motto, We say it all the time. We say it every day because we live it. The measure of a life is its service. And we can say the same thing about you, who, these 5 individuals tonight, have more than 200 years of cumulative service in banking and are leaving lasting legacies for the future. And you don't look that old at all. So I just want to thank you for your great example. We've got students here tonight, and they're going to learn from you, and they're going to model after you. Your stories will inspire them to follow you and be like you. And I'm just glad that you're the kind of person, you're the professional that we can stand up and say, hey, that's a person who's a giver, an encourager, an investor. And so congratulations to you all. Congratulations to your family. We appreciate your contributions to Texas. Enjoy your evening.
Thank you, President White, for those comments and your valuable support to our program. The accomplishments of our university and our students make me very proud to be a Bearcat and back at this university. I graduated here, I know not last year, I know y'all are thinking I'm not that old, but many, many years ago. And I love being here at this university. On that note, I'm also pleased that many of our students and young bankers are here in the room tonight, some of those graduates of our programs, to witness the accolades of each of you as honorees and witness how each of you have walked the walk. Take note, bankers and students, at the common theme of many contributions and the role that education has played in serving them well. So we will now move on to our recognition of the 5 awardees as we hear the full stories behind the success. So let us begin the celebrations. As I call on the presenters, okay, so y'all watch me. So I'll call on the presenters. I'm going to ask that you come to the stage using the stairs to your right, which is my left. There's a break in the curtain. Thank you, whoever helped me there. And proceed to the podium to introduce your honoree. And after this, the honorees will please come to the stage from the same side to accept the award. Okay? It's not hard, right? Okay. We start with tonight's first honoree, Kenneth Burgess. And I'd like to ask Chris Furlow, President and CEO of Texas Bankers Association, to the podium to introduce Mr. Burgess.
Well, good evening, everybody. The first thing I want to say, Jill, just congratulations. The work that you and Pam and Steve and Jacqueline have done, not only to put on this incredible gala, but to run the Smith-Hudson program is astounding. Jim Bexley is smiling somewhere tonight, so thank you all very much. How about a round of applause for them, y'all? And certainly congratulations tonight for all of our honorees. The late David Syme was a beloved example to many in this room. Pat Parsons, congratulations. I know that throughout your 5-decade career, you have been an influence on so many, and I know that the Stellar family is very proud of you tonight. And to my friends Jimmy Googe and to Ron Butler, I know this to be true, that I am not the only person in this room who can say, I love you guys, and we're all grateful to be friends of yours. So thank you all very much. In each of these individuals are found the traits of goodness, service, and leadership. So it's my privilege to introduce someone who will rightfully take his place alongside David, Pat, Jimmy, and Ron, Ken Burgess. You know, it's a pretty small club. And that is the club of individuals that have served in this business as chair of both their state and national banking associations. In Ken's case, the Texas Bankers Association and the American Bankers Association. Ken joined those ranks in 2017, but tonight he is acknowledged for more than just the honor of serving, but for serving with honor. You know, Ken didn't arrive at such leadership positions just by occupying a seat. It was years of work recognized by his peers, evident commitment, integrity that motivated colleagues to call on Ken to serve. I was speaking to one of those colleagues, Jeff Sapersky, himself a community banker from the state of Virginia, also a past ABA chair, and I asked him about the traits he thought about when he thought about Ken Burgess. First, a great advocate for banking, particularly community banking. That was number one. Number two, he called Ken a purist for free enterprise, opportunity for business people and for the individual. And three, he said that he had great and tremendous judgment without losing passion, a very rare trait. Well, he also reminded us that sometimes to be chair of the American Bankers Association is not always so glamorous. It is a year of true devotion. It's a year of extensive travel, requiring time outside the bank, time away from family. There are a lot of hotel rooms, delayed flights, a few rubber chicken dinners or lunches every now and then. And let me say, Kathy, you have been through his side through all of those rubber chicken dinners and lunches, right? By the way, tonight's dinner is fantastic. But the thing is, y'all, it's when you serve in those positions, it is not about oneself. It is time to recognize others, to promote the industry, and to defend the industry. His chairmanships required Ken to put on waders sometimes as he went into the swamp of D.C. He has met with the president at the White House, traversed the Hill with senators and members of Congress of both parties. His service in these high industry positions are certainly worthy of tonight's honor. But Ken's biggest impact is as a Texas community banker, in relationships and service closest to home, the local United Way, the Economic Development Council, the School District Board of Trustees. These are truly positions of trust in the community and positions responsible for making life better for neighbors today and focused on laying foundations for the future. Our friend Jeff Schmid from Swigsby will tell you about Ken's commitment to the next generation of rising bank leaders as a member of the Board of Trustees. He has been the founding chair of the Rawls Business Advisory Board at Texas Tech. Y'all, it's when we have that saying here at Sam Houston that the measure of a life is service, time and time again, Ken's career has been defined by service. President Reagan kept a small plaque on the Resolute desk in the Oval Office. It said, "There is no limit to what a man can do or where he can go if he doesn't mind who gets the credit." That is Ken Burgess's style of leadership. It's not on a plaque in his office, it's woven into his very being. Ken, you're too humble for self-accolades, so let me just say that tonight, those of us gathered here in this room are more than happy to give you the credit you deserve. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating Texas Hall of Fame banker Ken Burgess.
Thank you, Chris. I think you overdid it. I brought all these papers up here, but I don't like reading speeches, so this is kind of my comfort blanket. But I got to tell you about Chris. Chris, you've just done an outstanding job leading Texas Bankers Association. I had the opportunity to serve with Jim Googe when Jim Googe was running the search committee to hire you. And I think we all knew the first time we talked to you that you were going to be great. And we were not wrong. So thank you for all you've done. And Jill, I would like to thank you for your leadership on the Smith Hudson Endowed Chair. I can't tell you how much Sam Houston and this banking program have done for our industry. One of the hardest things we have to deal with is trying to find young talent coming in. And in the past, we've always had to pretty much train that ourselves. But when you can find kids that are coming straight out of college with finance or accounting degrees, and on top of that, having the banking training that we need, that's the kind of thing we need. And Sam Houston State University was a leader in this kind of a program. And thankfully, we now have some other schools around the country that are doing that. Scott, thank you for your leadership and what we're doing at Tech. And Mike Malden, you're doing an outstanding job. And we're already producing kids out of that program, but we're quite a bit behind the 500 or 600 that you guys have done already. And I'd like to thank Pam Thaler. I don't know how you do it, Pam. I've seen what you've been doing with Marcia and all the changes that you have to go through. Thank you for all your leadership in putting this together. And now I'd like to thank my wife. Chris talked about that a little bit, but I don't even know how many years that I was doing the banking thing and the Bankers Association things, but Kathy was always with me. I couldn't have done it without her. I'm not the most outgoing person in parties and reception and all that, but she is. So I could always just send her out and I would just follow her and she'd do all the talking. But I had to really be careful about that. We were at an Alabama bankers convention one night, and so we decided to split up. Bad mistake. It was the year that Clemson and Alabama had played for the national championship, and so a banker came running up to me with a big grin on his face, and he said, "I just met your wife." I said, "Okay, what'd she say?" He said, "Well, I told her that I went to Clemson." And she said, "Oh, wait, I know, don't tell me. You're the Clemson Tide." Crimson Tide for Alabama? Clemson Tide. That's kind of like Johnny Carson. That didn't go over well. But the next thing I'd like to do is introduce some of my family members. First, I'd like to introduce my son, Kenneth. He's a commercial lender for us in our Midland market, and his wife, Crystal. Stand up. And then I have my son, Will, and his wife, we call her Chef Katie. She has a catering business. Will, stand up. Katie. Will's a lender in Burnet, Texas, if you know where Burnet is, just north of Marble Falls. And then I'd like to introduce Greg Burgess. He's our Chief Lending Officer. He helped us start the Amarillo, or actually he started the Amarillo market back in 2002 or 2003, and that's why we were able to do what we did in Amarillo. And then Brad Burgess, who's our CEO. Brad and Suzanne, stand up. Brad is our Chief Executive Officer. And like Greg, he had been in Amarillo for about 20 years. Brad had been in Lubbock for about 20 years, so it was kind of an opportunity for us. We were pretty young in our life, but when they came along, we were able to jump into the other two major markets in the Texas Panhandle and do what we were able to do. And another person I can't go without mentioning, and she's going to kill me for this, but it's Marcia Luter, who's been my right hand for I don't know how long. Right back here. She's had to put up with me through being chair of TBA, through chair of ABA, and with everything that was going on, I couldn't keep up with my schedule, so I turned it over to her, and she's absolutely amazing, and Pam got to experience that the last month or so. And the last thing I'd like to do from a recognition standpoint is I'd like for the rest of our team to stand that I have not already recognized. Please stand. We've got such an outstanding team. And the other thing I'd like to do, you know, we can't do what we do in our careers without having some mentors along the way. And my first mentor was my dad. And I know a lot of you know him. He was a banker for a long time, but before that, he was a farmer. And that's the way I started. When I was 6 years old, and unfortunately Greg was even younger than that, but he was right beside me, he had us on the end of a cotton row with a hoe in our hand. And for the next however many years until I was in about the 8th grade, we were either in the fields chopping down weeds, or moving sprinkler pipes early in the morning, or driving a tractor, which I drove a tractor before I could ever drive a car. But what he taught me was the meaning of work and how important work was, and how important it was to not worry about what you're asked to do, to be willing to do anything. And so that's probably the biggest lesson I received from him. I received a lot of lessons from my dad, but those are some of the most important things. I later worked for him in banking for a little while, but most of what I got from him was when I was young. And then secondly, Rodney, where are you? Rodney Crow, in about 1985, I moved from Midland, where I started my first job, to Waco. And anybody that knows what the 80s were like, I worked there from 85 to 93, and I was a 29-year-old kid. And when I got there, I thought I was running away from what was happening in Midland, but it caught up with me. And so Rodney and I, for the next 8 years, well, actually it didn't last that long, but for a good long period of time, we spent a lot of time doing workout loans. And in fact, I think, Rodney, you like workout loans better than you like making loans. But he taught me a tremendous amount of sage advice. He used to have sayings, and some of the young guys that were there at that time, we had a name for them. They were called Crow-isms. And, you know, one of those was don't worry about things you can't control, which is very true, and I've learned that over time. And I'm going to let him tell you the story on this one. Don't make loans on Christmas Eve. So, Rodney, you'll have to tell everybody what that means. But one of the things I appreciate most about Rodney was he got me when I was 29. I was a brash young kid. I had way too much enthusiasm to move up in my career, and he had to tame that. And I know I challenged him many, many times, but I appreciate what you did to help me get to where I am. Thank you. So some of the highlights of my career is all the bankers that I was able to meet around the country doing the work that I did with ABA and also with TBA. Probably more than anything is the teammates, all the people that I've been able to work with. I can tell you right now, we have the best team of people that I've ever worked with in my life right now, and it's a little bittersweet to be saying goodbye to some of those people, but we've just got an outstanding group. And then all the customers that I've had the opportunity to work with over the years. You know, some people think banking is a money business. It's a financial business, but really what banking is an opportunity to serve people. God put us down here to serve, and that's what banking gives you the opportunity to do. For the young people out there who may be in the degree program here, just you've got to do your job, you've got to know the analysis, you've got to do all those kind of things, but you're going to have the opportunity to serve people. I can't tell you how many times I've had customers come into my office over the years, sit down, they're going through a tough time in their life, and they're wanting help from their banker. And most of the time they're there primarily to talk about money. And sometimes you can help them with that, and sometimes you can't. But you can always listen. You can always try to offer some advice if you have it and you see that it'll be helpful. But you have an opportunity to help somebody, and that's really what banking's all about, and that's what community banking is all about. And probably one of the most important things that I'm proud of is the culture that we've been able to build in our organization over the years. Our bank, somebody back there is going to have to help me, but our bank's been named in the top 100 best banks to work for the last 8 to 10 years. We were 4th in the nation one time and 1st in Texas one time. But that wasn't without a lot of effort and a lot of commitment to making that happen. And it got to the point where our team members, if we in management weren't doing what they felt like we should be doing, they would call us on the carpet. And they would say, here's the culture we're supposed to have. Does this fit that? So if you truly have the culture that you're trying to achieve, your team members need to be calling you on the carpet when you're not living up to that. So tonight, well, actually, I want to introduce 2 more people. One of the other things that's really been important to me is the opportunity to mentor others, because I had people that mentored me. And we have a number of young people in our organization, a few of which are here tonight, that I've had an opportunity to work with, and a lot of others who weren't able to be here tonight. But Crystal and Jeremy and Kenneth, y'all stand up. These 3 people are outstanding. And any one of you would be proud, and you can't have them, but any one of you would be proud to have these people. And I know you have people like them in your shops as well. I know David Lacey's always talking about that. That's one of the things that he really likes. But I want to tell you what a strong culture looks like. We have a lady that's worked, she's the 2nd longest tenured person to me in the bank. She's been with us almost since we started. She works in the trust department, but she's our corporate board secretary. She's opened branches. She's done so many different things over the years. But to tell you what community banking is all about, this lady had a customer that came to her and told her that one of her biggest worries in life, she was an older lady. She had outlived her family. She had outlived her friends. And she told Robin that one of her biggest concerns in life was the fact that she might die and nobody would find her. And Robin, that really touched Robin. And Robin told her that she would start calling her every morning, making sure she's okay. And the most amazing thing is she did that every morning, 7 days a week, for about 5 or 6 or 7 years until the lady passed away. And she was always doing things for her. She probably became the best friend that lady had ever had. But that's what we as community bankers do. We get to know the needs and desires of our customers, and we take care of them. It's not about money. It's about taking care of people. So, in ending, I'm going to use a word that my wife just loves to use. I'm not sure she always knows the meaning of it. But this is a poignant night for us. And it is because tomorrow, it's not when I say poignant, it's not sad, it's more emotional than anything. But tomorrow we're closing on the sale of our bank to Prosperity Bank. And I've got a couple of my new teammates in the room, Charlotte Rousey and Bob Dowdell, if you guys want to stand. I don't know where you are. But anyway, thank you very much for this honor. I very much appreciate it. Jill, I hope I didn't go over my time too bad, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Ken, and thank you for all that you've done. So at this time, I would like to call Scott Deeser, Chairman, President, and CEO of First Financial Bankshares, and Texas Bankers Hall of Fame 2015 inductee to the stage. Here you are.
Here I am. Thank you. Wow, what an evening. You know, when you've got all the most famous bankers in Texas in one room, this is really cool. This is like old home week. It's been great. And I want to say to each of the recipients tonight, all of them are friends of mine, and what a great evening and how well deserved for each of you. And I want to say congratulations to each of you. I also want to say to Sam Houston State University, you were the first for higher education for banking. And Bexley started that program, and it grew, and we all realized the value of that program and realized the value of bringing young bankers up, and it's going across the state. But you were the first, and continue. And Jill, you're a great person to take over from Bexley and carry this program on to greatness. So, and it's been a great program. And will continue to be. There's no question about it. All right, I get the pleasure this evening of talking about Ron Butler. Yeah, and Ron grew up in Ranger, Texas, and he grew up in a great family. Let me tell you, Ron's family is outstanding, and he's not the first Hall of Famer from that family, because his dad is a Hall of Famer in athletics. His dad was the basketball coach, softball coach, coach for everything, and then became the athletic director there at Ranger Junior College. But when he ran that basketball program, he was known for creating stars, and that's what he did. He was great at recruiting, and all the major colleges came and recruited from him because they knew he had great basketball players. And not only did he have basketball players that went to major universities, but also to the pros. And so he is well known. In fact, the arena is named after him at Ranger College. Ron thinks it's after him, but it's after his dad, the real Ron Butler. So anyway, Ron's not the first Hall of Famer, but Ron Sr. created stars, and he created a star in Ron Butler. Let me tell you. It wasn't an athletic star. And let me tell you, Ron spent 1 year at Ranger Junior College, and he played basketball. Well, he got to know his dad really well because he got to sit on the bench with his dad. And my favorite story about that year is they were way ahead in a game, and Ron Sr. put Ron Jr. in the game. Well, the best player is walking off the court, and he looks at Coach Butler and says, "What are you doing putting him in? I'm your best player." And Ron Sr. looks at him and says, "Yeah, but I don't love you." So Ron did get to play a little. So anyway, that's Ron's story. Went to Ranger Junior College and then got smart and went to Texas Tech University, where he majored there in business administration. Then got his master's from Charles State University, and like all of us, went to National Commercial Lending School, Swigsby, Leadership Abilene, and he flunked it because when he went to Stephenville, he had to go through Leadership Abilene again in Stephenville. So I guess you flunked it. I don't know. Anyway, he started at the bank in Ranger while he was there in college and was a teller, bookkeeper, and our careers are very similar because I grew up 30, 40 miles away in Breckenridge, started at the bank in high school, and so, you know, when you grow up starting in the bank as a teller and you move up the ladder, you've just about worked every job there is, and Ron's done that. He became the senior vice president and a regional manager for First American Bank. And that's where we became friends because I would borrow money from Ron. And so after a few years of borrowing money from Ron, I said, "Hey, you're overcharging me. I think you need to come to our bank, and we can use that at our bank." So anyway, Ron came over to First Financial Bank, Abilene, as a commercial lender. Then we realized the value Ron had, and had a position open in Eastland. So he went to Eastland. He was president of Eastland for several years. Then we had an opening in Stephenville as the president, and he went to Stephenville and did an outstanding job in Stephenville. Why was it Stephenville? He was the person that came up with, hey, we've got some banks here to buy. We bought Liberty National Bank in Granbury and First National Bank in Glen Rose at the same time, and really grew the bank. Ron was very instrumental in that. And then when we needed a president back in Abilene, he was back in Abilene in 2006, and is still CEO of our Abilene branch, and then became in 2012 the Executive Vice President, Chief Administrative Officer, who's the person that runs all our banks. Now we have 12 regions, and those regions are run like independent banks. So he goes to those board meetings every month, and they all have boards, and they have presidents, and all these presidents are here. I've spent the whole week with them. Let me tell you, I thought I was rid of them when I sent them off today, but they're back here tonight. They're kind of gum on the bottom of your shoe. You just can't get rid of them, but they're all wonderful. And anyway, when you think of Ron Butler, you think of not only a person that runs our banks, but you think of the person that's a community leader. And let me just go through this of what he's done for our community. Abilene Industrial Foundation, YMCA Abilene, Eastland Chamber of Commerce, Stephenville Economic Development Board, Brazos River Authority, where he's appointed by the governor for that position, Director of Stephenville Chamber of Commerce, Abilene Chamber of Commerce, Abilene Industrial Foundation, West Texas Rehab, Ben Ritchie Boys Ranch, Frontier Texas. And currently he's on the board of Abilene Improvement Corporation, Continue Care Hospital, Texas Trails Council Boy Scouts, and West Central Texas Municipal Water District. So as you can see, he's a great banker, but he's the community leader. He oversees our 12 regions. And I will tell you, like I was talking about our presidents, they're all A-type. The good thing is they're all A-type. The bad thing is they're all A-type. And Bruce Hildebrand's here tonight. Bruce and I went around to these regions for years, going to every board meeting. And oh my gosh, they will wear you out because they're always wanting to get better. So, and it's like herding cats, but they're wonderful. So anyway, Ron Butler is one of the reasons we're one of the top banks in this country. And I appreciate working with Ron. He comes to work every day to make our bank better. He's an outstanding banker, an outstanding community leader, and I want to introduce Ron Butler to you.
Boy, Scott brought back a lot of old memories there. And my dad kind of looked at me and just shook his head. But Scott, appreciate you for the introduction. Thank you to the Texas Bankers Hall of Fame for this recognition. This is special for a lot of reasons. Dr. Jim Bexley has been mentioned several times, and he was a dear friend of mine, and I witnessed the passion he had for the students and our industry. I wish he was here tonight, but I know he'd be very proud of the advancements of the banking program here at Sam Houston. Thank you, President White, Jill Vaughn, Pam Thaler, and all those that work to make this program awesome. Congratulations to my Hall of Fame class. Jim, Ken, Pat, and the family of David Syme. I was thrilled to see the slate, all great bankers. Jim and Ken and I go way back. They're dear friends. So that's another special part of this. But I accept this on behalf of my teammates at First Financial. We have a wonderful organization. I've been so lucky to be on this team now 30 years. I've had the opportunity to work with great mentors through my career. Ken Murphy and Scott Deeser are in this Hall of Fame. And I've been very fortunate to work for and with them. Scott, you're the best banker in the United States. I don't think anybody in this room would dispute that. And you make us better every day. Your leadership is outstanding, and your friendship's even better. And I thank you for all that you've done for me and my family, and all through the years. And I look forward to many more. Thank you, Scott. I have a lot of people to thank. First, got my family here, and my dear wife, Lorelei, is here. She is, yeah. So, you know, she's the perfect banker's wife. You know, she raised our kids, attended hundreds of receptions, banquets, bank events, conventions, countless other events, all with a smile on her face, and all while having a career of her own. And I would not be here tonight without her love and support. So thank you, baby. I love you. Well, as Scott mentioned, I was raised by a Hall of Fame coach and a Hall of Fame mom, by the way. And my parents, Ron and Rowena Butler, are here tonight, so they don't have to stand, but thank you. They moving around, going from Ranger to Huntsville is not that easy to do. So, but as Scott kind of stole my story, but I have a lot of stories. I did play for my dad my freshman year of college, and I didn't get in a lot, and it's still a family issue that he still feels good about his decision. Mom and I feel differently. So, but he also, he tells everyone that the reason Ron's good with numbers is while he was sitting on the bench beside me, he was keeping the team stats. So, and maybe a little bit. But I really learned my beginning accounting from my mom, who's taught accounting. So that is I have great parents. I'm so blessed. My kids are here. My son Trey, who is in the music industry, lives at Lake Leon, and our daughter Sydney, who's Jill Vaughn's neighbor in Telluride, 4th grade teacher. Y'all stand up, please. They're great kids. They're a thrill a minute, but they're great kids. I love them dearly. But got a lot of First Financial folks here tonight, and I want to thank all our executives, regional presidents, directors, line of business leaders, employees, retired officers and executives. And some of them thought this was a roast and asked how much time they had, and I said, no, you don't have, this is not a roast, and there's security here. And please, Sam Houston, do not let anyone that's not being recognized and inducted up here. They ain't right. So, but that's why I love them so much. But all of you are so dear to Lorelei and I, and y'all are family, and again, just love you, all of you. I want to especially recognize my long-suffering assistant, Carla Lane. Carla, stand up, please. If it wasn't for Carla, you ought to be all over at the gymnasium or at Stephen F. Austin or where, you know, everybody be confused. And she takes care of so much and really a member of the Butler family. In fact, she's my kids' banker, and they deal with Carla because they don't want to deal with me. I ask too many questions, and she's generally a lot friendlier. But Carla, you're the best. Absolutely. She's the Pam Thaler of First Financial. You know, after I was informed I'd be inducted into the Hall of Fame, you know, I spent time reflecting on all the people that have helped me through the years, great friends and bankers and mentors, and I've just been blessed by so many. You know, I've already mentioned Scott and Ken Murphy and all of my First Financial teammates, but I also want to give tribute to some great bankers that are no longer with us, but they were instrumental in my career and life. So Tom Dunn, he was our neighbor in Ranger, and he's the one that got me interested in banking, and it was very evident that I wasn't going to have a basketball career. So, but Mr. Dunn was a great mentor. Perry Elliott from Stephenville, wonderful man. Ray Bain, got the Bain families here tonight, who I love dearly, and Craig Smith from Hereford. They were all great bankers. They took an interest in my career. They offered guidance, support, encouragement. I hope I've done that, paid that back with some of our folks. And I have great stories on all those guys. They're characters, and I will not tell the stories now, but after the banquet, a few cocktails, I will tell them. But I'm so grateful for their guidance and support. In closing, I want to remind everyone that what we do is so important. We're the engine of our economy, and we make this state and nation go, especially being a Texas banker. It's an awesome responsibility, but we're always up to the task. You know, pandemics, snowmageddon, turmoil, hurricanes. Stephen Lee taught us about hurricanes when we taught West Texans about hurricanes. So, in fact, we've experienced everything except famine and volcanoes. So, but hell, you can throw that at us too. We'll figure it out. We'll stay open. That's right. Nothing stronger than a Texas banker. And those that think that there ought to be 4 banks in the U.S. are very wrong. And so, well, so Laura, she told me not to do this, and I'm sorry. So I'm going, you know, after all the Silicon Valley stuff, I'm going to work. I'm leaving, got my briefcase, I got a plan. I'm ready to go. Fox News is on. This jackass from Shark Tank is who's a Canadian, by the way, saying that we need 4 banks. Well, I said some really vile words, and Lorelei said, "What are you doing?" I said, "This, you know, I won't say it." And she told me, "Do not say on stage what you said in front of the TV." And again, I can do that after the banquet. So, but banking is so important, and if you want to kill our economy, do that. Put 4 banks. Just make it 4 banks. We'd be done. Those students, banking, it's a great career, so important, and you're entering the industry at a great time. Lots of challenges, but it's an exciting time. And what we're paying you guys out of college, I wish I was starting my career over, but you know, the work that Jill Vaughn does at Sam Houston, Mike Malden at Texas Tech, Dwight Gary at Texas A&M, as well as our other banking and business schools across the state, is critical keeping our industry strong. And please keep up the good work. You're doing outstanding. You know, helping businesses and families achieve financial success and making our communities stronger is a noble cause. You know, it's what we do. And we need to all work on keeping Texas banking strong, and I know this group will. I thank you all, and I appreciate the recognition very much.
Ron and I have come to be close best friends. So our next guest will be introducing Jim Gooch. We're so proud of you tonight. So a big welcome to Ford Sasser, CEO of Rio Bank, and our current chairman of the board for Texas Bankers Association. Welcome, Ford. Back to Sam Houston State University.
Thank you, Jill. This is very special for me. Mr. Bexley, Jill, as I told you, was a banker in McAllen and somebody I looked up to long time before he came here to Sam Houston State and set up this program. And Jill, you've done a great job in following in his footsteps. And Ron, I couldn't agree more with your comments today. It was great, great. But I'm here to talk about Jim Gooch. It's a real privilege for me to introduce Jimmy. And I call him Jimmy because he's been my friend for 57 years. I met Jimmy Gooch in the 7th grade. We've been friends for many, many years. We were San Antonio boys that had gone to the same, did not go to the same grammar school, but we went to the same junior high school. So I could talk all night about my friend Jimmy, but he told me I only had 5 minutes, and so here we go. Jimmy and I parted ways after high school. He went to school in Austin, and of course I chose a school of higher calling in College Station and attended that shining institution on the hill. Just like today, though, Jimmy has been respected by his friends. While in school at Texas, he was asked to be a cowboy, which is an exclusive organization on campus that takes care of the cannon that they shoot at the football games. It's not as impressive as the howitzer that we shoot at Texas A&M, but it's a nice little cannon. After we got out of school, Jimmy and I decided to become bankers. Jimmy was a correspondent banker in San Antonio when I was a young banker in Beeville, and he would come and call on me, and we would talk about our times growing up in San Antonio, our friends, the boys that we were friends with and we're still close to today. You see, more important to Jimmy than success is his friends. And with all his success, he's never forgotten those friends. Jimmy married Suzanne Cheever. Her daddy was the president of Broadway National Bank. And the Cheever family lived in a house right down the street from the home that I grew up in. So I've known the Cheever family for many years, have admired them, and have nothing but praise for the Cheever family. After being a correspondent banker at the National Bank of Commerce in San Antonio, Jimmy had a stop at Allied American Bank and Kelly Field National Bank before going to work at Broadway Bank. And Jimmy took that bank to another level for the Cheever family and was very successful. His father-in-law, Charlie Cheever, told me that, and I know he was proud of Jimmy. While at Broadway, he served the San Antonio community in many ways, but most important to us is he served the banking industry. Among his many commitments to the banking industry, Jimmy served as chairman of the board of the Texas Bankers Association. He also led the search committee that brought us Chris Furlow, our current president and CEO of the TBA. Values are the moral compass that define all men in the ways that they live their lives. I believe it's the cornerstone for men like Jimmy Gooch. You see, I believe that success is not a destination, but a journey. And the journey that Jimmy Gooch has taken and continues to take reflects well on his wife, Suzanne, his children, his friends, and our banking industry. I'm proud to call Jimmy Gooch my friend, and he's also been my mentor. And so I present to you one of the finest men I know, Jimmy Gooch.
Ford, thank you very much. You always take a little bit of a risk when you ask an Aggie to introduce a Longhorn. But that was more than kind. I started to get a little worried for a moment. I thought you were going to start telling the truth, but fortunately that didn't happen. Before I get into my remarks, I want to make one comment. The Texas Bankers Association, under Chris Furlow's leadership and Ford Sasser's leadership, filed a lawsuit yesterday against the CFPB, and Ford's bank is the plaintiff along with the TBA, and that takes a lot of courage and a lot of fortitude, and every community banker in the state of Texas and the United States is indebted to you guys for doing that. So thank you all very much. As Ford mentioned, I've known him for many years. I really wanted him to do this introduction because of that long-time friendship, but I knew he also was the TBA chair, and there's a tremendous amount of demands on his time, so I was a little hesitant to ask him, but when I did ask him, he, without hesitation, said yes. That's just the kind of friend he is. So Ford, thank you very much for doing that, and Abby, thank you very much for being here. I'm also very honored. Well, let me say this. I asked Jill when she called me who was being inducted, and she said, well, I haven't called everybody yet, so I can't say. And if I'd have known I'd had to follow Ron Butler and Ken Burgess, I'd have said no. But anyway, I'm very honored, but also very humbled to be receiving this recognition tonight. I want to congratulate Ron, Ken, Pat, the family of David. They're all very deserving and great people. And just like the men and women recognized in previous years, they achieved this honor by a lot of hard work, dedication, sacrifice, giving back to their communities and to their industry. And I have tremendous admiration for all they've done. Now, I, on the other hand, did it a little bit differently. I just married the boss's daughter. And I would submit to you that's a lot easier and a whole lot more fun. So let me now introduce you to the boss's daughter and the rest of my family that's here this evening. My wife, Suzanne, and if I make it together with her to Sunday, we'll be married 46 years. It's never a given. We got a long trip back to San Antonio. And as many of you know, Broadway Bank is a family-owned bank. The bank was started by her grandparents, Colonel Charles Cheever and his wife Betty, in 1941. And then in 1955, her dad, Charlie Cheever, came into the bank and was there for almost 50 years. And as mentioned, Charlie was honored by this organization several years ago. Suzanne actually worked in the bank during her high school and college summers. Then at her dad's request, when she graduated from college, she came into the bank and was the first of the third generation to do so. She started our commercial credit department, ran our investment area, was involved in the starting of our trust department, was on numerous committees, and served on our board of directors for over 30 years. And after having been involved with Broadway in some capacity for over 46 years, she retired this past October. Broadway Bank would not have had the success we've enjoyed without her involvement, and it's clear I would not be here were it not for her. So, Suzanne, thank you for all your support and all your love. Love you. And Suzanne and I are blessed to have 4 wonderful, most of the time, children, 3 great son-in-laws, and 1 fantastic daughter-in-law. And they have blessed us with 10 of the cutest, smartest, fun, and well-behaved, most of the time, grandchildren. So let me introduce our children to you. First, our oldest daughter, Sarah, and her husband, Jeff. Please stand up. They have 3 children and live in San Antonio. Our second daughter, Carrie, and her husband, Nick. And they live in Austin and have 3 kids. Carrie is the only one of our 4 kids that went to the University of Texas. So she was my favorite. But then she married an Aggie. So she's right on par with the rest of them. Sorry, Nick, you know I love you. Our son, Cy, and his wife, Laura, they have 2 little girls and live in San Antonio. And our youngest daughter, Kate, and her husband, Kobe, they live in Nashville, Tennessee, and have 2 children. And it was not easy for them to get to Nashville to San Antonio this morning with 2 kids in order to board our minibus in time to get over here. So Kate and Kobe, thanks for making the effort, and kids, thank you all for being here. It means a lot to me. As I mentioned, I'm very humbled to receive this recognition. I had so many people help, support, guide, and mentor me my entire life and career. Obviously, my parents were a big influence on me, teaching many important things, not the least of which was the value of hard work. My dad always told me, don't worry about what your title is and don't worry about what your pay is. Just do the work and the rewards will come. The willingness to hold yourself accountable, doing the right thing, enjoying life, and staying humble. I also have never forgotten that 3 of my 4 grandparents were immigrants to the United States. All of them came to this country in the early 1900s when they were in their 20s. They were looking for a better life for themselves and their future families. Both of my grandfathers were basically, they were carpenters and miners, and they worked hard to provide for their families. And I have never forgotten the sacrifices, and I remember those sacrifices, and I'm very fortunate that they made the decision to come to this great country. I also had a couple of wonderful uncles that had been very successful in their careers. And they taught me a number of things just by watching them, how they conducted themselves. But one of the things I learned from them was the ability to laugh at yourself and not to take yourself too seriously. Then when I got into banking, I had so many people that helped me along the way. I can't name those people tonight. Just not enough time. Obviously, when Suzanne's dad approached me about coming to work at Broadway, that was a huge moment in my career, but also a significant decision for me, and one I did not take lightly. Fortunately, it could not have turned out better, and that was primarily due to the support I received from Charlie, from Greg Crane, who was our CEO at the time when I joined the bank, and of course, Suzanne. I always said I had a very easy job. All I needed to do was to keep Charlie and Suzanne happy. As I mentioned, Broadway Bank was founded by Colonel and Mrs. Cheever in 1941. Shortly after the bank opened, Colonel Cheever was transferred into General George Patton's Third Army, where he was Patton's chief judge advocate, and with Patton during his march through Europe. Because of his absence, Betty Cheever, who was a school teacher by training, was left to oversee the bank. She had a lot of challenges, as the bank was a small, struggling bank at the time, and were it not for her tenacity and persistence, Broadway Bank probably would not have made it. I'm always mindful of the sacrifices that Colonel and Mrs. Cheever made, and it drove me to want to make them proud. I was fortunate to get to know them. They're wonderful people, very down-to-earth and very humble. At Broadway, I had the pleasure of working with some of the finest bankers and people in the state of Texas. Some are here this evening. Joe McKinney, our vice chairman for a number of years. He was recognized by this group a few years ago. Joe, thanks for all your support and counsel. Harvey Hartenstein has been at Broadway Bank for over 30 years. He is our current bank president, has done an outstanding job for us. Harvey's here with his wife, Margaret. Margaret, thanks for being here. And Harvey, thanks for all you've done for Broadway Bank and for me. Jeannie Douglas. When I came to Broadway, Jeannie was one of the first people I had the great pleasure of working with in the commercial loan area. Shortly after becoming the CEO, Jeannie became our chief lender and chief credit officer. She's an outstanding banker and an exceptional person. Jeannie, thank you for being here and for all your support and helpful guidance. Jeannie had the pleasure of riding over here from San Antonio, which is a little over 4 hours, in a bus with the 10 of us. So and it's going to be more fun when we go home. I also want to thank David Boney. David followed me as our CEO and has done an outstanding job leading our organization. He has truly taken the bank to the next level. He's also the person responsible for nominating me for this honor. So David, thank you very much. David was supposed to be here with his wife, Kathy, but she unfortunately broke her foot yesterday, or day before. So David, thank you for being here. And tell Kathy I hope she gets feeling better. Colonel and Mrs. Cheever would be very proud of where Broadway Bank is under your great leadership, so thank you. Lastly, through my involvement with the Texas Bankers Association, I've had the pleasure of developing some wonderful friendships with a number of great bankers. And a lot of those people have been up here tonight, and that's Scott Deeser, Ron Butler, Ken Burgess, Dre Drivelbus, and my great friend Mike Malden. I want to thank all the people associated with Sam Houston University for the great job they did organizing this wonderful event, especially Pam Thaler. I want to recognize Jill Vaughn for her great leadership for the Sam Houston Banking School. And when I consider all the great community bankers in Texas, frankly, I'm not sure I deserve this award, but I accept it on behalf of all the great Broadway bankers that I had the wonderful pleasure and opportunity to work with. So thank you all very much.
So our fourth honoree tonight is J. Pat Parsons. And at this time, I would like to invite Mr. Bob Franklin, Executive Chairman of Stellar Bank, to introduce Mr. Parsons.
Thank you very much. Excuse me, got a little froggy tonight, but it's a privilege to be here tonight to introduce Pat Parsons on his induction into the Texas Banker Hall of Fame. I must admit that I was not completely knowledgeable about the hall, but as I learned more and saw the distinguished members listed, I felt very comfortable that this is a place that Pat should be recognized. I thank George Martinez for Pat's nomination, and I'm honored to be able to introduce a man that has been a big influence on my life. I must hide behind this podium to say things that I've not been able to say directly. Pat Parsons is a modest man, and I know that being honored tonight is a challenge for him. He's not one to bring the spotlight on himself. He grew up in Beaumont, Texas, and was lucky to find his soulmate at an early age in Melody and marry above himself, something that I can relate to. As Pat and Melody were building a life together, and finishing their education at SMU and Lamar, Pat began to focus on banking. He joined a large bank credit training program, and it gave him the opportunity to explore the world while living in London and other exotic places. But home was calling, and Pat and Melody would find their way back to Beaumont. Pat was a community banker at heart. Pat felt the need to help his community, and banking was his way of giving back, among others. Pat helped lead what we refer to as Community Bank One to its ultimate sale, and then led the team to build Community Bank of Texas. Pat's initial capital raise in 2007 of $100 million was one of the largest of its time in the community bank space and gave him a great platform to launch his new bank. Pat quickly grew the bank, passing $1 billion in assets and continuing to grow as he set his sights on Houston in order to expand his franchise. This is where we met. Pat and I were always cordial, would see each other at various TBA events. We each enjoyed talking about our new banks over the years. Pat was growing much faster than I was, but realizing that we had a lot in common. It was after one of those nights at TBA where a few too many wines are passing that Pat suggested that we put our banks together. We laughed and said goodnight, but then I realized he was serious. We talked more over the next few months as Pat would explain to me how great it would be to have 4 plaintiffs' lawyers on your board, with 3 of them that led the Texas tobacco litigation. He may have exaggerated just a little bit. But in 2013, we followed Pat's plan and we became partners. Since that time, I have watched Pat as he has interacted with family, with employees, community, and board. Pat is a man of his word. He is a good father, husband, grandfather, and leader for his community and his employees. I have seen Pat handle good times, but also times of stress. Pat is a mentor and leads by example. Pat Parsons is a community banker. Therefore, if the Texas Bankers Hall of Fame is here to honor good men, mentors to the industry, and definitional community bankers, then this institution should be honored to induct my friend, Pat Parsons.
You know, in Beaumont, we're kind of slow. If Bob hadn't kept saying Pat, I would have wondered who he was talking about. Let me start by recognizing some of the special people here for me, like many of y'all did. First off, I'd like to recognize my girlfriend of 61 years and my wife of 53, Melody. My son, John Pat Jr., his wife, Ina, and John Pat Parsons III, known far and wide as Trip. I'd like to talk just a second about a couple of my mentors, but I'd like to preface it by an observation I made tonight. My career took a completely different path than most of the careers I've heard talked about tonight. I mean, for God's sake, I don't even know where Ranger, Texas is. But I was privileged to get out of graduate school and go to work for First City. And at First City, there were 2 men that changed the trajectory of my life. The first of them here is Martin Bowen with his wife, Judy. Martin and I met on our first day at the bank. Martin's from the thriving metropolis of Maher, and he had been running a military bank in Saigon for American Express. Martin, I think I have that right. Had a graduate degree from Thunderbird and had gone back and gotten his law degree from Baylor. So he comes into the HR department. I think we called it personnel back in those days, but he comes into the personnel department the same day I do, a green kid, just straight from his MBA, starting his banking career. And he came over to our house and ate dinner that night.
typical of my wife, always ready to entertain at the spur of the moment, a great banker's wife, as most of y'all have talked about your wives tonight. But we developed a friendship over that period of time, and he brought me along into my international banking career. I had the privilege of working with Martin throughout Asia. Subsequently, he brought me over to London, and I've succeeded him as the general manager of First City's London branch. Exciting days. When I came back to Houston, working for First City, I started working, I formed what was called a project finance area. I had petroleum engineers working with me, I had mining engineers working with me, and I was spending most of my time on the East Coast or the West Coast, one airplane or another, saying goodbye to my wife and my young baby son, and I got tired of it fairly quickly. We were successful, till $10 oil. We were fairly successful, and that's when the next man that changed the trajectory of my life came into my life. He's here tonight. He's a previous honoree, Bookman Peters. Bookman, would you please stand? Bookman is my mentor. He taught me how to be an honorable gentleman and how to be a community banker. And he gave me my first job in community banking at First City Beaumont, my opportunity to go home after 20 years. I'm not going to sit up here and reiterate, talk about all the values and all the wonderful things these guys in front of me talked about. I mean, golly, what speech givers. I'm impressed. I really am. I'd rather be stripped naked, put in a dark closet, and hit with a piece of bamboo than be up here. So I thought I would come up with an analogy that reinforces some of the things these guys have said. And I'm a gearhead. I love sports cars. Yeah, I love to drive them. I love to build them. I even tried my hand at racing them once. Wasn't any good, but I tried. And so there's this phenomenal show on Netflix called Drive to Survive. It's about Formula One racing. And each season is a retrospective about the previous season in Formula One, and it goes race by race. And of course, we all have this image of race car drivers winning races, you know, standing up on the podium, like I am here, and squirting champagne everywhere and everybody having a good time. But as you watch this series, you realize that most of it was about how it all comes together. It's about the owners and the team principals and the drivers and the mechanics and the engineers, you know, ad infinitum. It all adds up to a team. And without that team, the driver would never have a chance to stand up on the podium. And they do call it a podium. If you get first, second, or third in Formula One, they call it winning a podium. Well, here I stand on the podium. And I stand on the podium because I have a great team working with me. Most of the original lenders who joined me when we formed Community Bank II, Community Bank of Texas, are here tonight, and I don't accept this recognition on my behalf, as other gentlemen have said tonight. I accept it on behalf of one of the greatest team of bankers that I've ever had the privilege to work with. They took the new Community Bank of Texas, we call it CBTX2. They took CBTX2 from a 0 market share in Jefferson County to the dominant market share in Jefferson County in just a few years. And Bob, I hate to correct you, but we raised $200 million to start the bank. So once again, I want to thank Jill. I want to thank everybody here. I want to thank all the people who spoke before I did, so I don't have to say it. And thank you all. Good night.
So our last award tonight is for the late David Syme, who's well known to everybody in this room. So at this time, I'm going to introduce Mr. Syme's daughter, Evan Sanford, and Glenn Pendergrass to the podium, and they will both accept the award for David.
am proud to be here to tell you a little bit about my dad. But before I do, I want to show gratitude for the folks who nominated him, IBAT, and the people who sang his praises in the form of letters in that nomination: Steve Skurlock, Chris Williston, Jody Arrington, David Miller, Jeff Mercer, jumped at the chance to write letters when asked, and we are so thankful. David Miller is here. My dad loved you. IBAT, you were near and dear to his heart, so thank you so much for leading us here tonight. Those who knew my dad are not at all surprised by the fact that he will be in the Texas Bankers Hall of Fame. I could rattle off his banking career highlights, numerous organizations and philanthropies he gave his time to, accolades he received throughout his life, and if you didn't know him, you wouldn't be surprised either. I will tell you, if he were here with us today, he would say he was not deserving. He was a humble man who lived his life serving others. I have compiled a short list of lessons we can all learn from the life of David Syme. Lesson number 1, family comes first. My dad loved his family well. With me tonight, my brother Hunter, his wife Sharon, Spencer and his daughter Olivia Pearl, my husband Michael. Y'all stand. We can all attest to the fact that our dad, and Opa, as his grandkids called him, was the real deal. He was intentional about loving us, spending time with us, and I can say I think his 7 grandkids were truly the jewels in his crown. One of the last pictures taken of him shows him with a big grin on his face, sitting in his favorite chair with his 2 youngest grandkids, Olivia and her little brother Evo, crawling all over it. He loved our mom, Paula, Oma, or PJ as he called her, in such a way you could truly see how the word love is considered a verb. Throughout their nearly 53 years of marriage, one of his favorite things was making her happy. Lesson number 2, be a loyal friend. With me here on this stage is Glenn Pendergrass, one of my dad's lifelong friends. They met in the 8th grade. Glenn was the best man in his wedding. They remained close friends for 60 or so years. Glenn, thank you for being such a constant and true friend to my dad. We are thrilled you're here with us tonight and grateful for your continued presence in our lives. His presence is proof that friendship was very important to my dad. Lesson 3, service above self. This was his credo. My dad made his mark on the world, to be sure. He taught classes on servant leadership, where he made clear that the organization chart not be a pyramid where the leaders are at the top, but an upside-down pyramid where the leaders are all at the bottom, serving the organization as a whole, leading up. I've heard him say, hire people smarter than you, and then get out of their way. When my mom got diagnosed with ALS, he told her he could go ahead and retire so he could spend the coming years taking care of her. And she said, David, you need to work. Please don't retire just for me. So he didn't. After all, banking was his passion. He continued working at Happy State Bank as well as serving the community. Shortly after we lost him, my husband and I went to the bank and cleaned out his office, and I found something remarkable written in numerous journals that he had in his office. Pages after pages in these journals had lists of names. One list, at the top, it said notes, it had names, and the next to it said calls, names. Not many details accompanied these lists, but I know the lists were a combination of friends, family, colleagues, customers, fellow volunteers in the community. His day-to-day life was focused on making connections with others. Texas Bankers Hall of Fame. He may not have felt deserving of such an honor, and we all wish he could be here to tell us so. But his extraordinary life and the example he set for serving others deserves nothing less.
So many great stories and so many great memories. Some of the stories I'd love to tell, and some of the stories I can't tell. But it was such an honor to watch David grow personally and professionally. And it's such an honor to receive this award on behalf of David and his family. Those of us that knew David professionally, we knew he was a great banker, and we knew he was a great person. But the best thing about David was he was such a strong family man. He loved Paula, he took care of Paula, and he was a very loving father. And I want you to know, David was a very strong Christian. He was also a great friend. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in one more round of applause. Did I not tell you how fabulous these inductees are and what a life of service that they've led? So thank you all. At this time, I would like to reintroduce our Dean Shar Self to introduce our Texas Bankers Hall of Fame Executive MBA Scholarship as a result of our gala proceeds as a final portion of our program.
Good evening. What a wonderful evening. I'm less than a year old in this job. Not really less than a year old, but 11 months. And so this is my first Texas Bankers Hall of Fame, and I'm just blown away. How about, Jill, come on up here. How about Jill Bond and the team?
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations to this year's inductees into the Texas Bankers Hall of Fame, as well as those that have been inducted in years before. Your contributions to the industry are impressive and worthy of celebration. Your outstanding contributions to the banking industry have made a significant impact on the Texas community and beyond. You are legends in your own areas. I'm in awe of all of you. Your dedication, hard work, and leadership have helped shape the banking landscape in Texas and have set a high standard for others to follow. Your induction into the Texas Bankers Hall of Fame is a well-deserved recognition of your achievement and your commitment to excellence. We are honored to have you here tonight and celebrate you being inducted into the Texas Bankers Hall of Fame. One more thing that we are also proud of is the proceeds from this gala support the banking program as well as the Executive MBA, what we call the EMBA scholarship program, which provides $5,000 in scholarship to attend the EMBA program in banking and financial institutions at Sam Houston State University. I am delighted tonight to offer my heartfelt congratulations to this year's Texas Bankers Hall of Fame Executive MBA Scholarship winner, Andrew Denny. Andrew currently works for Southern Star Bank, SSB, as an Assistant Vice President, Mortgage Disclosures and Software Systems. In addition, Andrew is a Bearcat, which makes me love him even more.
Eat him up.
He received his BBA in General Business from Sam Houston State in 2006. Andrew, you have demonstrated the potential to be a leader in your field and I'm confident that the Executive MBA will provide you with the tools and resources to achieve your goals. The Executive MBA program is an intensive and challenging program designed to equip you with the necessary skills, knowledge, and network to succeed in today's rapidly changing landscape. I encourage you to seize this opportunity with enthusiasm and make the most of every learning opportunity that comes your way. Remember to always stay curious, ask questions, and seek out new challenges. Once again, congratulations on this outstanding achievement. I wish you the best in your future endeavors and look forward to seeing your continued success.
Andrew, we're so excited to have you coming into our program in August. It really is a phenomenal program. So in closing tonight, again, congratulations to each and every one of you. And thank you to your friends and family and all of our attendees for being here. I'd like to again thank our sponsors and a special thank you to our bankers we lean on to help shape the future of our industry, giving our students opportunity and most importantly, leading by example. As we conclude, I would ask all the honorees and presenters and their families to remain here in the front of the room, close to the stage, because we'll get additional pictures. I also would like to ask the previous year's inductees to come up here. We're going to get a group picture for our 10th year. Again, congratulations, woohoo. And very important, I want to remind all those attending the seminar tomorrow that we start promptly at Elkins Lake at 7:30 for registration. So we start on time and we end on time. So have a safe trip. And again, thank you so much. And a final round of applause for all of tonight's inductees. Thank you.